learners, welcome back to my hello, great of learners. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Good people will be dealing with business studies today. We're gonna be dealing with business studies. Good people, I will be giving you the prediction when it comes to business studies paper 2, which is the paper that you'll be writing on 11 November, which is tomorrow. Without wasting so much time, I am going to give you the possible questions that we are going to find on tomorrow's paper. Remember, good people, business studies on paper 2 is divided into two. We have what? Business ventures and business roles. So I'm going to start with business ventures. I need you to pay attention on whatever that I'm going to say now. We're going to start with the notes of management and leadership. As you can see there on my notes, I wrote management and leadership. This is a scope, good people. This is a scope that I need you to practice and study. So now we have what? Management and leadership. Under management and leadership, we have leadership styles that are going to be asked on your examination. We have the leadership styles that are going to be asked on your what? On your examination. Number one, good people, we have what? Democratic leadership style. You need to understand and know what is what democratic leadership style. We need to know transactional, we need to know autocratic, we need to know laissez-faire, which is free range, we need to know charismatic. or charmistic. I believe that makes sense. So now, good people, we have also what theories, management, and leadership. So the first question that we should expect in our examination that we'll be writing tomorrow, it's what elaborate on the meaning of management and leadership. So you need to understand between what management and leadership. That's the first question that we should expect. Elaborate on the meaning of management and leadership. Those are the questions that you should expect tomorrow. And good people, they are going to be there. And you will remember me. Then now, the other question that we should expect when it comes to tomorrow's paper, you must outline the difference between management and leadership. So you need to know what the difference between management and leadership. We need to know the difference between management and leadership. I believe that makes sense. We need to know the difference between management and leadership. For those ones who are going to answer question 2, 4, and 5. The other question that we're going to find, good people, there's a scenario that will be given whereby they will say to you, identify leadership styles from a given scenario. So you need to identify leadership styles from a given scenario. So they will be talking about certain leadership styles that are applied in a scenario. So you need to identify whether in a scenario is it democratic, autocratic, and so forth and so on. I believe that's clear. Then now let us move forward, good people. Let us move forward again to theories and management and leaderships. We're going to find a question that can say, discuss situation in which leadership style can be applied. So when we find a situation in which leadership style can be applied, they are talking about what? Let's say now in a scenario we find that it is what? Autocratic leadership style. Then they will say, discuss situation in which the autocratic leadership style can be applied. That's what they are simply referring to. Then advise businesses on the impact of leadership style. You need to advise the business on the impact of what? Of leadership styles. What are the impact of using what? Democratic leadership style? What are the impact of using what? Autocratic leadership style? I believe that makes sense. Then, good people, there is a question that will say to you, differentiate between democratic and autocratic. We need to know how to differentiate between democratic leadership style and autocratic leadership style. Then, good people, you must be able to identify leadership theories from a given scenario. What are those leadership theories? Number one, we have transformational and situational. So we need to understand those transformational and situational. We need to know them. And good people, we need to discuss the leadership theories. We need to discuss transformational. We need to discuss situational. I believe that makes sense. Then now let us now move toward the roles of personal attitude in successful leadership. They're going to ask you only these two questions. Explain the role of personal attitude in successful leadership. Quote the role of personal attitude in successful leadership in the scenario. Those are the things that they are going to ask you. Then now when we move to what the functions of JSE, this is the first question that you're going to find in your examination. Discuss the function of Johannesburg Securities Exchange, which is JSE. Then now the other question that we should also focus on is the factors to consider when making investment decisions. Number one, good people, they're going to ask you only two questions on this one. They're going to say to you, name factors that should be considered when making investment decisions. Explain factors that should be considered when making investment decisions. Those are the things that we should expect on tomorrow's paper. And now let us move forward again to the next one. We have what? Investment opportunities and their risk factors. The first question that you should expect, good people, you must explain the various types of what? Of investment opportunities and their risk factors. For instance, what are those investment opportunities and their risk? We are talking about what? We are talking about RSA, retail saving bonds. We have unit trust. We have fixed deposit shares. Those are the what are the investment opportunities that we are talking about. Then now we must identify the form of investment from a given scenario and motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. So we must identify the form of what of investment that is used by the business where in a scenario, and we do what we motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. And you must discuss businesses or advise businesses on the impact of the forms of ownership. So you need to give them the impact of what? Of the forms of ownership. For instance, good people, let's say now they're going to talk about what? Uh, mm, Shares, ordinary, preference shares, founders, and bonuses. So which is we have four. It's ordinary shares, preference shares, and what? Founder shares and bonuses. We have how many? Four of them. So you need to be able to know what the impact of these four preference shares. I believe that makes sense. Then now let us move again. We must be able to identify types of shares from the given scenario. We must also, good people, discuss the types of shares. And now, types of shares, we must name type of preference shares. We must identify the types of preference shares from a given scenario. We must discuss types of preference shares. We must the rights of what of ordinary and preference shares. We must also elaborate on the meaning of the following concept, which is what? Departures, dividends, capital gain, simple, and compound interest. Those are the things that you should expect for what your tomorrow's paper. I believe that makes sense. Those are the things that you should expect on what on tomorrow's paper. And good people, on the calculations of simple and compound interest, we must identify the type of investment options from a given scenario. So we must be able to dictate or identify whether the forms of investment that is used in a scenario, is it compound or is fixed. I hope, or simple interest. And we must also, good people, recommend the best investment option based on the calculations. So we're going to have to do the calculations, then we recommend what the best option of what on of the investment. And good people, you must be able to distinguish between simple and compound interest. You need to be able to differentiate those two things. Then now, good people, we have what? The non-compulsory insurances. We have what? Non-compulsory insurance. So, good people, when we talk about the non-compulsory insurance, what are we talking about? We are talking about over insurance, we are talking about under insurance, we are talking about average loss, we are talking about restatement, we are talking about access. Those are the what are the non-compulsory insurances. Here's the question that we're gonna find. We're gonna find four questions regarding what these forms of insurances. They're gonna say elaborate the meaning of the what of the concept. For instance, they're gonna put what over insurance. So you must be able to elaborate the meaning of what of over insurance. Then now, good people, you must be able to explain the difference between over and under insurance. You must differentiate between insurance and assurance and what give examples. I hope that makes sense. And you must give examples of short-term and long-term investment. As we can see that here we have what principles of insurance, and we have what those are the what are the examples of short and long term insurance. I believe that makes sense, my good people. please make sure that you are taking the information that I'm giving to you, because your examination, it's going to be based on what you see on the screen. And now you must do what? Identify the principle of what? Of insurance from a given scenario. You must discuss the following principles of insurance. I hope that makes sense. I hope, good people, we are taking notes or we are writing, because whatever that you see here, you're going to find it in your examination. And when we come to the calculations, or what we are going to calculate there, good people, they will say apply the average clause to calculate the compensation in the case of underinsurance. That's what they will be asking us about. And now let us also, good people, talk about what the advantage of insurance. On the advantage of insurance, we're going to find a question that is going to say to us, explain the advantages of the insurance. So we need to explain what the advantages of the insurance. And good people, we need also to explain the meaning of insurable and non-insurable risk. Those are the things that we should also know. Then now let us move to compulsory insurance. When we talk about the compulsory insurance, good people, we're going to find a question that will say to us, differentiate between compulsory and non-compulsory insurance. We're going to find a question again that will say, explain the three types of what? Of compulsory insurance, which is what? We need to explain the unemployment insurance fund. We need to explain the road accident fund. We need to explain the compensation for occupational injuries and diseases. Then we have what? UIF benefits. They will say, explain the type of UIF benefits. Then let us go to the notes of what? Forms of ownership. We have limited and unlimited liabilities. They are going to say to us, we must explain the meaning of limited and unlimited liabilities. Number two, we must outline the difference between limited and unlimited liabilities. Then, under forms of ownership, again, good people, we must be able to discuss the characteristics of each form of ownership. We must also discuss the impact of the different forms of ownership. We must also explain the difference between private and public company. I believe that makes sense. Then now, good people, we have what? The criteria for success or failure of the business. Then the question that we have here, it says, discuss how the following criteria contribute to the success and or failure of what? Of the business. Let us not forget the main point, that we are in a large business at this particular moment. I believe that makes sense. Good people, you must be fit when it comes to taxation. You need to be fit when it comes to management, capital, division of profits, and legislation. Let us now go to the what? The notes of presentation. The notes of what? Of presentation. Factors that must be considered when by the presenter. When presenting or when preparing, good people, there will be a question asking you about what should you do when you are preparing for what? The presentation. And also, there will be a question that will ask you that what should happen while you are presenting at that particular moment. I hope that makes sense. Good people, you are going to get these things, and do yourself a favor of making sure that you are taking everything that I'm giving here. And you must outline factors that must be considered when preparing for the presentation. You must outline factors that must be considered when presenting. You must advise presenters that must be considered by the presenter while presenting. I believe that makes sense. And good people, there is a question that will come asking about what? How to handle feedback or questions in a non-aggressive and professional manner. So we need to explain how to handle feedback or questions in a non-aggressive and professional manner, good people. You need to go and read data response presentation and data response notes. And areas of improvement in the next presentation. Good people, you must explain areas of improvement in the next presentation. What are the things that you should improve on your what? On your next presentation. And factors that must be considered when designing multiple media presentation. So here, good people, we need to do what? We need to explain the aspect that must be considered when designing a multimedia presentation. Number two, we're going to give examples of non-verbal presentation. When we talk about the non-verbal presentation, good people, your answer that they are going to require, it's going to be what? Handouts. Don't forget on that one. It's going to be handouts. I hope that makes sense. So we have handouts, we have PowerPoint, we have overhead projectors, we have flyers, we have flip charts, and so forth and so on. We have posters and so forth and so on. And now we must be able to identify visual aids from a given scenario and motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. So we must be able to identify what? The visual aids from a given scenario. And we must motivate our answer by quoting from what? From the same scenario. I believe that makes sense. And now, good people, we must discuss businesses on what? On the impact of visual ad. What are the impact of using what? The visual ad. And now, good people, when we go to the notes of ethics and professionalism, they're going to say to us, elaborate on the meaning of ethical behavior. Number two, they're going to say, outline differences between ethical and professional behavior. I hope that makes sense. Then, good people, when we go to the King Code principles, King Code principles, they're gonna say what? Explain how business can apply the King Code principles. When we talk about the King Code principles, we are talking about transparency, accountability, and responsibility. Those are the what? King Code principles. When we talk about the transparency, we are talking about the processes and the systems that we can see, which is everything is clear. When we talk about the accountability and everything in the business that is happening must be a person who will account for that particular thing. And when we talk about the responsibilities, to make sure that we are aligned with what? With the acts and being responsible of the actions that we take at the workplace. I hope that makes sense. And now, good people, we need to know something: ways in which professional, responsible, ethical, effective business practice should be conducted. That we must expect one question there whereby they will say, recommend ways in which professional responsible, ethical, effective business practice should be conducted. And then when we move to unprofessional business practices, we're going to find three questions there, which is they're going to say, identify from a given scenario. So you must be able to identify what? Unprofessional business practice. From what? From the scenario. Then now let us move forward again. Explain how the above mentioned unprofessional business practice pose a challenge to businesses. I believe that makes sense, my good people. And now we need to recommend ways in which businesses could deal with the above mentioned types of what? Of unprofessional business practice. Good people, we do have these notes here on my YouTube. I did do videos teaching about whatever that we are talking about. Then let us now move to what? Unethical business practice. When we talk about the unethical business practice, We need to identify an ethical business practice from a given scenario. We need to explain how the above mentioned unethical business practice pose a challenge to businesses. We need to recommend ways in which could deal with the above mentioned types of what of unethical business practice. I believe that makes sense. When we move forward again, we must explain the problem solving steps. We need to discuss the problem solving steps. We need to know the difference or elaborate on the meaning of problem solving and decision making. Remember, good people, just to remind you, when we talk about the problem solving, problem can be solved by a group or an individual or a senior member of what of the management. But when we talk about the decision making is often taken by one person. It cannot be two people or more. I hope that makes sense. Then, good people, we need to outline, we need to know the problem solving techniques. Remember, there are many there. I think we have 8, if not 9. But on the paper that you are going to write tomorrow, they are going to ask you about the DALFO technique. You need to know DALFO technique. You need to know nominal group technique. We need to know force field analysis. We also need to know brainstorming. So you need to make sure that you put all of those things that I've read now in your head. DALFO technique, nominal group, force field analysis, brainstorming. Those are the things that you should make sure that you put them in your head. Then now let us move forward again. We need to advise businesses on how they can apply the DALFO technique, nominal group, force field analysis, brainstorming to solve what complex business problems. Then now let us move forward to the next question again. We need to discuss the impact of the problem solving techniques stated above. We need to elaborate on the meaning of creative thinking. We need to recommend ways in which businesses can create an environment that promotes creative thinking in the workplace. We need to explain the benefits of creative thinking. We need to elaborate on the meaning of social responsibility. We need to do what to explain the relationship between social responsibility and triple bottom line. When we talk about social responsibility and triple bottom line, we are talking about people, profit, people, and planet. Those are the triple bottom line. You need to go back to your notes and try to remind yourself. Then also we need to identify the socio-economic issues from a given scenario or statement, which is unemployment, HIV and AIDS, and poverty. And then now let us move forward again. We need to elaborate on the meaning of CSR, which is corporate social responsibility. We need to suggest ways in which businesses can contribute time and effort in improving the well-being of employees and communities. We need to suggest ways in which businesses can deal with the above mentioned socio-economic issue. So I hope that makes sense, my good people. And you are going to remember me. We need to explain the purpose of CSR. We need to explain the purpose of CSI. We need to name the component of CSR and focus of CSI. We also need to discuss the impact of CSR or CSI on businesses and communities. We need to differentiate between CSR and CSI. And also, good people, when it comes to human rights, we have human rights, inclusivity, and environmental issues, which I said that your essay, it will be based on what I'm talking about now. We have what? We have privacy, safety, security, protection of life, information, dignity, equality, freedom of speech and expression. They are going to say to you, name the following human rights in the workplace. So you need to name the human rights that you know when in the workplace. I hope that makes sense. And we need to discuss ways in which businesses could deal with the above mentioned human rights in the workplace. And good people, we need to the implication of equality, respect, dignity on businesses We must explain the implication of what? Of equality, respect, dignity on businesses. Then we have what? We have economic rights, social rights, cultural rights. We need to outline the economic rights of employees in the workplace. We need to name social rights of employees in the workplace. We need to recommend ways in which businesses could promote cultural rights and social rights. We have diversity issues in the workplace. When we talk about the diversity issues in the workplace, we are talking about what? Disability. We are talking about age. We are talking about gender, right? And we need to elaborate on the meaning of diversity in the workplace. We need to name the following diversity issues from a given scenario. We need to discuss the benefits of diversity, way in which businesses can deal with the diversity issues. And then when it comes to environmental issues, good people, we must explain the responsibilities of employers in promoting humans' healthy and safety in the workplace. We must explain the responsibility of workers or employees in promoting humans' healthy and safety in the workplace. We must identify the roles of healthy and safety representative from a given scenario. We need to suggest strategies businesses may use to protect the environment and human health in the workplace. Then now, good people, when we talk about the possible questions, I'm saying to you the possible questions on question 5, it's going to be investment insurance or forms of ownership. That's the essay that I'm predicting on question 5. On question 6, good people, is going to be what? Human's right, inclusivity, and environmental issues, as those are the possible questions when it comes to essay. You must outline the responsibilities of workers in promoting humans' healthy and safety in the workplace. Number 2, you need to explain ways in which businesses could deal with any 3 diversity issues in the workplace, excluding culture and religion. You also need to discuss the benefits of diversity in the workplace. You need to recommend ways in which businesses could promote cultural rights in the workplace. I guess that's what we need, good people, for our paper that we'll be writing tomorrow. That's what we need for the paper that we will be writing tomorrow. Nothing more we need, but that's what we need at this particular moment. Good people, make sure that you subscribe. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.